Oh gosh, I've redone this video so many times, and I'm going to try and get this one uploaded. There's a bunch of guys complaining right now that they're getting demonetized on their videos, especially the types of videos where they're talking about inflammatory political stuff, or it's a dude with a camera talking about it. I'll say a lot of this type of stuff basically for the benefit of my subscribers and for the benefit of myself. Should anything happen where somebody's like, well, where did this guy stand on this issue, that issue? What is one thing or another? And that's because there are people who had used what other people said about me to create different profiles or careful editing and that kind of a thing to make me look bad in other situations because they had hostile intent. And when I am making advice videos where I'm just trying to set somebody straight on the way the world works, I mean it. Okay, it's not too many of those where I'm going to say one thing in public, say another thing in private. What I would say in private would probably be a little more detailed or have a few better keys to it that I'm not going to let everybody know, because it's something which is, of a particular advantage, which would no longer be an advantage if everybody knew it. And that just, I hate to say it, but it's like talking about whether there's a good fishing spot or a good way to get a particular type of job, a good way to get along in certain types of neighborhoods and things like that. The other thing is regional differences, okay? But you have to realize that Google is a West Coast company, okay? It's California, Washington, Oregon, and they're going to have West Coast values, and you may have some guys out there in Missouri or Kentucky or Tennessee tell you what West Coast values are. You may have people from California, Washington, Oregon tell you what they think they want you to believe West Coast values are. If you haven't lived out here, you probably don't know, okay? For the exact same reason, because I've never lived in Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, I have a pretty good idea what the values are because I've talked to a lot of people from there, but I've never lived there. Okay, so I'm really going to have some difficulty speaking to them, for them, beyond a certain point. Okay, if you want to talk about Florida, Alabama, Texas, Louisiana, I've been through those areas. I lived in Florida actually for a few years. I kind of have an idea how it works there. Okay. I knew a lot of people from Alabama, so I kind of had a fairly good idea how Alabama works. But it's hard. I'm not going to speak for the place, all right? And when we talk about Ohio and Michigan, I got a pretty good idea how Ohio and Michigan work. But if you're not from California, Oregon, Washington, and you want to tell me about how it works or how America should treat them or these types of things, there's a lot of stuff that's being said that advertisers for companies from those places aren't going to pay you to say it. Okay, that's the way it is. This stuff with PewDiePie, I wasn't watching this stuff. I'm not sure how much I should have cared, but I did watch what Wrangler Star said about it. I watched what Casey Neistat said about it. I got to agree with Casey Neistat. Certain words and actions are going to have consequences, and you kick certain people, certain groups of people in the shins hard enough, they're going to react, and those reactions are going to take a relatively predictable course. Okay, they're going to take a relatively predictable course. I have dealt with some of the people that you'll hear about, see about, some of these conspiracy theory things. And you kick them in the shins hard enough, they're going to react. And are we best friends? No. But we've dealt with some of those people. Have they kicked me and my organizations and my associates in the shins and gotten a reaction? You bet they have. Okay, you bet they have. But that isn't something for third parties to go and instigate and jump into and have all that involvement with. It's definitely not something for corporate advertisers to be forced to pay for the dialogue on. So this stuff is what it is, okay? I saw a few of my videos get demonetized. I looked at the titles. I double-checked the content on those. Yeah, now I understand why. I'm not even going to dispute it. If somebody doesn't want to pay for that stuff to be said, I fully understand. If somebody, because the amount of money involved is not enough to impress me, it's not enough to impress anybody else. And if I had failed to impress the types of people that, do real funding for real operations and those types of things, and they failed to handle situations because they chose their own course of action, well, they own that, okay? They own those. They own those results. I don't own those results. They own those results. If I'm being paid to give recommendations on a lot of stuff, I'll give honest recommendations. But with regard to being paid to give recommendations by advertisers to some other third party to this other thing, what should you do when this is going on and that kind of stuff. You can have a high viewer content. You can have a lot of stuff out there. It doesn't mean that the advertising world is going to pay you to say it. Okay, they're not stopping you from saying it, but I think the days of the NSA or FBI showing up on somebody's doorstep because somebody overheard something, I think that's pretty much gone. I don't think it's going to be happening all that much. But the idea of social audits over what advertisers are actually willing to pay for you to say, well, no shit, Sherlock. Of course that's going to happen. Anyway, good luck to everybody. We're all still here, okay? And if you need to tune your content and make some money, that's one thing. If you want to quit, take some time out of YouTube or take some time out of that and just come back for social media purposes, I can tell you right now I make far more money working at my job than I do compared to the time on YouTube. And there's times I spend far more money producing a YouTube video than it will ever make, but I have fun doing it. I'm practically addicted to it. I still do this stuff, okay? I'm still going to do it. I can't say that I'm owed anything for this because it is what it is. I can't checking my time here on this. I can't say that the advertisers owe me for this. They don't owe me for my education and experience. If people are willing to pay for that, then yeah, I appreciate it. Okay, I appreciate the ratings. I appreciate the thumbs up. I appreciate the reactions and the comments and these types of things. Although if people say dumb shit, I'll delete it or talk back to the smart ass or whatever. But the guys that are getting demonetized on a lot of stuff you've said, I can tell you right now, if I was in charge of advertising on stuff and I looked at a lot of what some of these guys like Alex Jones would say, I would say, oh, do I agree with it? Yeah, but I'm not going to pay him to say that. Okay, I'm not going to pay him to say some of the shit that he's saying. There's a lot of guys that are saying stuff, I'm like, no, I wouldn't pay him to say what he's saying. And I'm not going to validate by giving him money to say it. Okay, I'm not going to validate some of these opinions. And there's a few people where I've commented in a video, I'm like, hey man, do you really think this is appropriate to talk about? I've tried to meet people face to face, and some of these guys I've met face to face. We kind of discuss a few things, and hopefully everybody comes away with a better understanding of that. But it doesn't mean corporate advertisers are going to validate everything that you have to say just because it got popular with a particular audience. And if you want corporate validation for what you say, then you're probably going to want to say things and study things and do something that has value or uniqueness or something. Man on the street stuff like Mark Dice has done for years now. That has value. Economic analysis from some guy that's run investment firms and all that stuff, that has value. Social analysis from people that have been involved with social movements and organizing and social work and market research, that has value. When we look at corporate market research, that's a shady little office in a corner of a mall where you take surveys. Okay, it's not something they highly value. And so when you're talking about social criticism type video stuff, it can get popular, it can get people interested for whatever personal therapy they seek for themselves, but it's not necessarily something that the corporate world's going to pay you to say.